Hello, and welcome to another window into my life. My name is Darian, and I wanted to share something else with you. It's a play that I wrote for the D&D campaign that I made. I'll tell you more about it after you take a listen. But first, thank you for being here. The curtains pull back, revealing a laboratory of arcane significance that provides the following events with a common motif, a contextualizing illustration of magic and mania. An elderly mage, Barnus, stands near the center over a table covered with notes. A young man awaits as the wizard mutters to himself. If we consider time to be a lens through which we perceive all of reality, a lens that propagates through us into our bodies and into the world, we can simply analyze the coloration and interpret the spectrum and modify transients. Get over here. The apprentice, Josen, hurries over to his mentor, knowing that in this moment, Barnus needs a subject, not a colleague. The mage speaks without looking at Josen. Stand over there. I want to try something. After Josen gets into position, the wizard with immense focus speaks an incantation fueled by centuries of insight. A bolt of dark energy escapes through his outstretched hand and collides with Josen's battered form. The apprentice collapses and screams with the agony of vulnerability, a sound strangely tempered by a determination to persist. As the dark energy fades, Barnus approaches the body, looking down at another of his failures. Unfortunate result. Perhaps I need to manipulate my influence through the projection before cogitating the expression. Further study is clearly needed. Barnus walks away from Josen, leaving him dazed and weakened on the laboratory's cold, callous marble. The scene pauses for a moment as the mage returns to study, and the apprentice begins to recover, remaining still on the floor until the lights fade. Time passes, and we see this window into the world change with it. Barnus eventually succeeds in his dogmatic aspirations, but at a terrible cost. His soul becomes immortal, and trapped. He finds himself lost in a plane of existence tangential to the material, a place of ethereal relevancy, only able to communicate with his former pupil. Josen continues to follow the mage's guidance over the course of decades, sacrificing his time, energy, and connection to the world beyond the laboratory. The scene goes dark, and we hear softly in the darkness, Josen speaks. I see. The stage is set. There lies in its center a ritual circle flanked by burning candles. In the circle there sits a plinth upon which is placed a diadem of silver and sapphire, a circlet of supreme significance. The scene unfolds within what appears to be a place of study and experimentation with the arcane arts. As the apprentice stands alone in his mentor's laboratory, surrounded by strange apparati, potions of magical effect, and a veritable sea of papers both preserved and discarded, the ethereal aspect of the former necromancer appears once again over his shoulder. Yes, you're almost there. This is what we've been looking for, the incantation, the circle, the conduit, everything we need to save me from this eternal nightmare. Simply say the words as written, and I shall rise again, stronger than ever before. His apprentice begins reading from a worn tome, filled with decades of revelations and experiments. An unnatural wind begins to catch the room's overflowing papers, creating a whirlwind of magic and parchment around the young mage. The written notes fade and reemerge as they pass in front of the audience. You see what follows with clarity. After a moment, he closes the book and continues the ritual without its aid. The specter watches in confusion, then with rage. No! What are you doing? These aren't the words we designed. Who knows what ill effect this audacity will bring forth? Josen pauses the reading, and through the chaos of energy that fills the room, speaks to his mentor's spirit with confidence. I do. I will be rid of you once and for all, free from your decrepit and mundane despair. Whereas you once sought life above and beyond the horizon of insight, you now wilt forever as a rose, decaying of lethargy in the necrotic ice of the deepest trenches in hell. though still wither with comfort, for you will live, in a sense, through me, as your mentor lived through you. One may call it circumstance, privilege, even, but I know that this is a world of my making, as it shall be forevermore. I would dare to express my gratitude, however, thanking you for a path you laid for yourself would hardly be fitting for someone embracing eternity. I am, and have always been, inevitable. As my last words to you, I say in this ode to the grave, live in your desolation, in your darkness, so that I may be a champion of time and the conqueror of life itself. Jostin speaks one final word of unimaginable power, and Barnus screams with the agony of a forlorn and forsaken soul committed to the eternal tides of misery. His visage is consumed by the diadem, which glows momentarily before returning to its previous state. The whirlwind subsides, turning from a torrent to a gentle breeze, then to anticipatory stillness. With a modicum of hesitation dismissed by his determination, Jostin reaches for the helm and places it upon his head. He looks to the audience and smiles. The scene fades to black, and the curtains close. And that was a play that I called An Ode to the Grave. It's a play on the name of the CEO of the corporation in the Multiverse of Aether, my D&D multiverse thing, Thalco. And the CEO is named Dignitary Graves. The play is meant to communicate the general culture around the board of Thalco. I don't really know where you draw the line between reality and parody, but it's about taking advantage of the systems that exist, about taking advantage of the work that your predecessors have done. It's a story about inheritance and manipulation. It shows how focusing on yourself and creating a legacy for yourself, focusing on the moment, your moment specifically, can certainly bring you unprecedented wealth, the accumulation of resources. In the case of An Ode to the Grave, Jostin gains eternal life. In the case of Dignitary Graves, well, he gained effectively eternal life as well, but he also gained incredible power. Not only is Dignitary Graves the CEO of the corporate entity in Aether, he's also the focus of commerce on the Council of Human Elders, the ruling body of the government. And I don't know if you've ever had this thought before, but I think it should be prohibited, perhaps, for elected officials to engage in business. If you are elected to represent people, you should not be able to participate in the systems of capitalism that you govern. Dignitary Graves is an excellent example of that, and he is one of the big bads of the campaign. And perhaps rightly so, because he's kind of terrible. Yeah, in a lot of ways. But so is the perspective that would prioritize the accumulation of resources and wealth over developing and maintaining sustainable systems of safety, of health, of community, of representation, which is something that I explore in The Gravity of Gravity as well. It's really dumb that a lot of weird people decided to set up some systems that favor them and people like them. I think it's because the people who resonate with the structures that exist have a worldview based on their inner reality, and their inner reality is that of a person who would benefit and take advantage of the systems. So there's this tendency to believe that other people can and will do that. You know, I think that contributed to this opacity between businesses, how you have to protect your secrets, you have to protect your information. That's why people don't talk about money. It's inappropriate, I guess. I don't know. I don't relate to that. I don't understand it. If we don't talk about money, then we can't make sense of it. Let's, to put it in context, the Ode to the Grave in the context of the campaign. The campaign is effectively infinite. There are hundreds of NPCs that I've invented and presented throughout the past 5 years. And it takes place over the course of 3 acts. The second half of Chapter 4 in Act 1 takes place in Thalco headquarters at a party called the Celebration of Whimsy. So this play is one of 18 activities in that sub-arc, in that part of that chapter, in that act, in the campaign. There's a lot of detail in the Multiverse of Aether campaign. I don't know how I came up with all of this, but I've invented all of it. And it's supposed to be a place where we can have conversations about inequitable perspectives. For example, one thread, I guess, a few NPCs at the party have this kind of thing going on where their job is to have money. And they have this perspective that they deserve to have it because they have it. And because they have it, they know what to do with it. So if you were to give money to someone who isn't used to having it, then they're not going to use it in a way that is proper, I guess, or make the best use of that money, of those resources, which is not true. But in my own life, I've seen myself go through quite a few different phases where sometimes I have money and sometimes I don't. I actually have an example that I'm going to explore in The Gravity of Gravity, and that is the cost of lemonade. Do you know how much lemonade costs? I don't currently because I don't buy it anymore. But I remember at one point when I was fortunate enough to be able to rely on other people to help me survive, I really wanted some lemonade. But the lemonade that I wanted was $2.19, and that was too expensive for me. I found myself acutely aware of how much things cost. And then I caught myself a while later when I had money buying food without thinking about how much it cost. Money is blinding. And that's exactly what this celebration of whimsy that I'm going through currently with the table that I run, that's what the party is all about, is to show how the perspectives that accumulate wealth generally, if not always, suffer from a certain amount of blindness, whether that be the realities of others or the reality of the systems they perpetuate. All that to say, I'm writing a bunch of stuff to offer a mirror to the world around me, to show you that we don't have to deal with these things, but the things we do have to deal with, they can be just as unpleasant. But I found through quite the adventure that on the other side of dissonance, there are beautiful things. But where we are and where we're going, these ideas, these reflections, this pattern of thought are going to become more common, more accessible. I don't know what my role in life is. I have a sense that it's to offer a destabilizing dose of clarity. But I hope to show that destinations don't exist, that community is the pinnacle of the human experience, that the systems we've used to survive are not necessary. They're not the only things that we have accessible to us. In The Gravity of Gravity, for example, capitalism does exist in this speculative future that I've designed, but it doesn't have the control that we give it today. It enhances the human experience rather than regulates it, rather than, I don't know, I guess inspiring people to promote death and misery for something I've never experienced, I guess. So maybe having vast amounts of wealth is worth rampant and pervasive suffering. That doesn't sound right to me. So I guess I'll just have to get rich and then... Well, no, I wouldn't do that, though. If I had money, I would spend it helping other people. Which is a thing that you could do, by the way. If you happen to have money, you can spend it to help people. That's a bit of a tangent. The piece, Ode to the Grave, is an example of how detailed the things I create can be. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more like that, I do have a Patreon where I have all of these things organized and access to the Gravity of Gravity project that I'm writing. You get emails with the first draft of each new chapter as I finish them, which I'm realizing could end up being like collector items because I edit the drafts when I come up with new ways to say things, and then I end up losing the old ones. So Really, the only way to have an original draft of a chapter is to sign up for the Patreon, because I'm not going to keep it. I don't need it. And I also have a Discord where we get to chat, and I am doing live streams. My first one is tomorrow from today, which may or may not be the day I post this video. I think it's August 16th, but I'm planning on doing more of those. The first one is going to be talking about making the first chapter of The Gravity of Gravity, which I read in another video on my channel if you wanted to check that out. My link on Patreon is patreon.com/Darian Thomas. And that'll be on screen right now and in the description for you. So I would really appreciate it if you liked the video, commented on it, engaged in any way. You don't have to. I just really appreciate it. It's really exciting to see other people responding to this work, because my life is very uncertain right now, and it's kind of terrifying spending time doing this when I feel that pressure to make money. But no matter what you do, no matter where you go, no matter what you have to offer, I hope you know that it is perfect, as it is. Absolutely perfect. You're doing great, and I appreciate you spending time with me today. Well, actually, the day that you watch it, because today I don't have any plans to hang out with anybody. But anyway, thank you for existing. I look forward to our next conversation.